Space.
We're back. We're back again. We're back in space, and I've got an arcane symbol behind me. I know. Hello.
Space. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Adequate. Our ongoing mission, until we are cancelled and replaced by something far superior, to review every episode and movie of Star Trek in existence, to seek out new guests and make them very uncomfortable, to boldly go where many other Star Trek-based YouTube shows have gone before. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers. We are back! After what seems like a long time, we are back. Welcome to a brand new episode of Trekking Up North. I am one of your hosts, as ever, Captain Goodwill, and joining me is the delectable Geesian from the planet Honk, who has decided to put a seal on himself in case JD Vance decides to shake his hand. It is Science Officer Synoiz!
He's not going to off me like he did with the Pope. He's,
I've got to say,
this seal is protecting me.
I've got to say, all props to the Pope. Where he's like, your name is JD Vance. He's like, yeah, I'm JD Vance. Okay, I die now. That is the ultimate. Yeah. I am done with this guy. I am so done.
It is. It's the ultimate sort of like mic drop moment of just being like, yeah. Well, how did I feel about meeting JD Vance? I guess I'll just die. Which is,
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe
I'm
cut
pretty
down
sure
on the guy
anyone
liner.
who meets him thinks that, anyone who notices him sitting there in the cock chair. Anyhow,
his name does sound like an STI, but yes, we have been off. I think I've had that.
I think I've had JD Vance.
You've had JD Vance.
Yeah, no, there's an antibiotic though. It's fine.
Yeah, it does help twice a day. I have been away on a top secret mission with Section 31. Not that Section 31, the decent one with Sloan and Black Leather.
The one with good story.
The one with
I love
good
how
story.
you went on the secret mission and we were so confident that we'd still be able to record, and then it just turned out that it was impossible for you to actually record. Like, there wasn't the space, there wasn't the internet connection, and it's just kind of going like, okay, so let's just not. Like, it was an unexpected.
Yeah. The space is what I would describe as the void in between the Kardashians' head, and the internet connection was also the way they speak, slow and unbearable. I was promised a gig and I barely got that, so we couldn't record. However, I was on a very top secret mission in which I have been able to obtain exclusive artifacts, Science Officer Synoiz. I have done up a card and I have been doing some archaeology. Would you like to see
Are you pulling an English museum?
I am.
You're pulling a British museum.
I am pulling a British museum.
We repatriated these items.
What is this? Oh, it's mine now. In the bag.
The ancient British tradition of finders keepers.
I must admit I was... Yeah. I can't say anything without incriminating myself. However, I have obtained some rather interesting artifacts. Would you like to see them, Science Officer Synoiz? And guess what they are?
I'm going to really upset you if I'm like, nah, I'm fine, mate. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just move on and just scrap this whole segment.
No, show me the item. Sorry, I can't take it seriously. I've got the bloody seal of Metatron behind me.
Anything to
keep JD Vance out. I'm finally going to get back to game streaming, and I thought, because it got delivered from the official Konami store, because it's a Silent Hill bit of merch,
yeah,
and I didn't actually know it would be this big, so basically the only option to actually hang it up was to nail it to the wall. So when we sat down to record, I was like, oh yeah, forgot that's there.
Please tell me you didn't nail it on Easter Sunday.
Well, no,
Okay,
like
that's fine.
I think I got nailed on Easter Sunday, actually.
Yeah.
There you go. And
I just had the flu. Anyway, I have in my possession these.
They look like very large biscuits. Are they just? Did you put like nice biscuits through the transporter and sort of make them massive?
Oh God, could you imagine? What do you think?
So nice.
What do you think these are? Any guesses?
Oh, Romulan shoulder pads.
Hey!
Giving
hey!
Scully a
I'm
run
telling
for
you!
money.
Look at this!
Hey, that's it. That's how you can tell whether a Romulan's happy, whether they point up or not. Oh.
These...
I have no idea. Are they? They're not swimming aids, are they?
These are not swimming aids. These are the actual seat cushions from Captain Picard's chair on the Enterprise D in Season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Bloody hell.
These are from the Enterprise D bridge, which Liz Klakowski, Michael and Denise Okuda, Doug Drexler, and all of the production team built for Season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Now, you're probably wondering...
That's incredible.
But you're probably wondering, but Captain Goodwill, the Enterprise D bridge is currently at Universal in LA, and I would be like, you're right. These were used because when they test fit the chair before they filmed, Patrick Stewart, being the fairly distinguishedly old gentleman that he is a little bit smaller than what he was in The Next Generation. Therefore, in order to equalize the height between Riker and Picard, they handmade these cushions out of the same fabric of the Enterprise D chairs, so that when he sat down, he was slightly raised. Therefore, everybody, these cushions, these very cushions, smell of Patrick Stewart's arse.
I'm oddly jealous and mildly aroused. That's the yeah.
This is one of the finest bits of memorabilia that I have obtained, and all props to Liz Klakowski and the production team, because holy shit, this is a fine quality.
It's got to be if it's gonna have Patrick Stewart's
But this
it.
is my own bit of the Enterprise D. I own a part of my childhood. I own a part of the legacy that is the Enterprise D.
That is absolutely iconic. I love it.
Well
done on getting them, man.
So one of them is going to be dispatched to Mike number 1 at the Clone Star podcast.
Yep.
And then this one will forever.
Are we putting it there? Just so that whenever we record, we are reminded of Patrick Stewart's arse.
May the scent of Patrick Stewart's posterectum guide us during our review of this podcast.
Are we going to start a Bajoran religion based upon... That's the artifact. Every day we're like, now we must pray to the padding.
That's it.
Pray to the Picard padding.
The candle is being lit.
Oh, don't light this candle like
the candle is being lit in homage of Patrick Stewart's bum smell. It is going to be lit.
We're gonna have to see them when we go to the conventions. We need to tell them that they need that as a scent.
Bugger.
They need that as like a scent for one of the candles. Patrick Stewart's rump.
I mean, yeah. Light. Okay. There we go.
The ghosts aren't feeling it.
The Crusher candle has been lit.
Oh no!
In homage of Captain. What the hell has just happened there? There we go. Sorry, I've got shit all around me. I do apologise. Yes. So I have been on.
I love that we've massively derailed whatever we were attempting to do this episode.
That's fine.
Before we've even started.
I have been on a top secret mission for a month, and I have been able to secure a little bit of the Enterprise D and the scent of Jean-Luc's bum. So we are here because the last time on Trekking Up North, the double wheel of shame landed on an episode, and you're going, well, hang on a minute, Captain Goodwill, this is not the same episode that it landed on. And I'd be going, ha ha ha, you are right, and congratulations for watching more than one episode, because the episode that it landed on was Ghosts of the Machine, which, when I was searching for the Double Wheel of Shame episodes, and I went, I don't really like this episode, and I couldn't remember what the name of the episode was, so I used Google, and Google AI was like, it's this one, and it wasn't. It was actually Kobayashi.
So we did have a debate about this, because obviously what we do, what if you're new to the show and you've lasted this far, well done. Well, actually, I'm going to applaud you. Well done for lasting this long with our nonsense. But yeah, what we do is we do the Dabo wheel, where we basically randomly select an episode from 2 different lists. We have a list of our 20 best episodes of Trek and our 20 worst episodes. It is 20, isn't it, or is it 10?
24.
Okay, well, lots of them. And basically what we did is we span on our worst wheel, and we had Ghost of the Machine from Prodigy in there, which Goodwill had put in. We'll explain why in a bit. And it turns out that isn't the episode that we thought it was. It was actually this one. So we had a discussion of, do we do the episode we said we were going to do, even though it's not the one we intended, or do we swap it to the actual one we intended? We decided for the latter. So we are doing Kobayashi, which is the original one. But why did you pick this for the Dabo Wheel of Shame?
So when I first saw this episode, when it first aired, I was a little bit disappointed. So I really struggled with 2 things in this episode. Dal, who I just thought was insufferable through most of it. And the fact that they used voiceovers for the guest characters, like actual sound clips from previous Star Trek episodes and movies. And I thought, I really struggle with it, because I didn't think it fit. And I thought it was like, it just reminded me of South Park episodes where they would just use real voice clips for characters, and they just didn't fit, and they didn't sound the same, and they all just sounded weird. And like, for me, it was seeing Spock, and I'm like, you use sound clips of Leonard Nimoy for Spock, which is fair enough, when you have Ethan Peck there.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like, you could have done something better. But however, when we get into this episode, my mind has been changed.
Okay, because that was my next question. Because like we had, where I picked an episode of the original series as one of my worst episodes, and then totally changed my mind after we watched it. Has the same happened here? After watching the episode again, has your opinion changed on it?
My opinion has changed, because I myself have sort of, I've not matured, but sort of looking back on reflection and going, I now understand why you did this and what the whole reasoning was behind it from the production team. So I sort of understand it now. But my opinion has changed. So shall we get into the review of Kobayashi?
Yes, let's go with this. And also the wonderful thing is, this is our first Prodigy review that we're doing on this.
Yes.
How have we managed to dodge it? Because the fact is, like, you know what? Prodigy, sorry, we're never going to get to the episode, but Prodigy is the one that I've advertised the most to people. Like, the amount of times when I'm having conversations with other fans, and they're going, oh, I love Star Trek and stuff, but the new stuff's, like, terrible or whatever. And I'm like, have you watched Prodigy? And they're like, no. And you're like, oh, give it a go, kind of thing. And they're like, well, what's it about? And I'm like, it basically continues Voyager. And they're like, what? And it's like, yeah, it's got all of these things in. It's really good. And they're like, oh, but isn't it for kids? And I'm like, well, kind of. Like, it's kind of framed for kids, but it's still the same as all Trek, where you can get your own stuff out of it, and they're still enjoyable episodes. Like, and the fact is that the people who have gone like, oh, actually, yeah, it is really good, know. And it kind of helped. Like, it's a problem. I had a nightmare because I obviously loaded up bloody Paramount Plus that I still haven't cancelled yet, because I needed it for the movies and stuff. But load up Paramount Plus, being like, oh, I'll just watch some Prodigy on there, and it's not on there. The Star Trek channel doesn't have it on, so had to go to Netflix and be like, oh, cool, this is much better as a service. And then realizing that makes it a lot more accessible to other people, so it's quite good. More people have been able to watch it.
Prodigy is it is very much like Lower Decks. It is a gateway Star Trek if you want to get into the franchise. And what I absolutely loved about Prodigy is the effect that it has had in bringing in younger generations into the franchise. So when me and Synoiz were in STLV last year in Las Vegas, we
Still sounds
saw,
like an STD.
yeah, but we saw. I mean, again, the cream worked. We saw a lot of younger kids in STLV, and they were wearing Star Trek Prodigy costumes. They were wearing like outfits, uniforms, and everything like that. And it made me kind of realize this is why Prodigy was made. This is the audience that it was directed to. And Rob Kaczynski from Section 31 actually nailed it on the head, where he said, we are losing Star Trek fans, and the Star Trek fans are aging, and in order for the franchise to survive, we need to bring in younger fans, and we need to sort of have those entry-level shows and movies to get them engaged, and then let them research older episodes. And the one thing that Star Trek Prodigy, I think, as well as Lower Decks, does really well is it will reference something, very much like Kobayashi has. It will reference something, and then it will make fans go, so what's that about? What's this about? Who's this? What's this? And then they've got a wealth of TV shows and movies to sort of get into and realize, oh, what Enterprise is this? Oh, it's that Enterprise. Oh, what's this? Who's Scotty? Who's it? And it's brilliant.
Prodigy successfully manages to do that tightrope of having references to stuff, but then not making it its entire deal. So it's the fact of it has little Easter eggs in there. It has little nods that kind of go, hey, look, if you're, a fan of Star Trek, you're going to enjoy this little sort of nod. Like, not to the level that Lower Decks does it, where Lower Decks is just like, hey, this is just a splurge of fan, like, service. And then Prodigy does it subtly, especially in this episode. But then it kind of means that there's more to research. So if you're interested in the episode, you're like, hey, what was that thing? Well, actually, go and watch this episode. And now you're into TNG. And oh, what's this? Now you're into Voyager. Oh, who's that character there? Oh, well, now you're into DS9. And it's exactly that. It's a gateway into something that if they want to explore, if they like children do, where they kind of, I know that I was always the case of this, but it's possibly neurodivergency, where you kind of learn about something and then you kind of have to learn everything about it. And Prodigy makes that, it makes it clear, it makes the pathway clear, and I think that's absolutely wonderful.
So this episode is the 6th episode of season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy, and for those that have never seen Star Trek Prodigy, it essentially follows the adventure of a group of young kids who find themselves at I wouldn't say prison, but like labor facility in the Delta
It's a labor camp, basically.
Yeah, it's a labor camp.
The first couple of episodes deal with the plot of they're all different species. They're having to work on this planet to excavate stuff, but they're not sure what it's meant to be. And it turns out that actually the diviner, who is the ruler of this like planet, basically is looking for, what's the ship called?
The Protostar.
The Protostar, looking for the Protostar, and then these kids accidentally stumble across it. But one thing, because we're probably not going to deal with it for a while, one of the things that I think is one of my favorite moments in all of Star Trek is the plot device where we get so used to the universal translator in Trek. Like, we are so used to the idea of just a Klingon appearing and being able to talk to an Andorian or being able to talk to a Romulan or whatnot. And then we have Enterprise, where we kind of have the universal translator is being created. Therefore, it's a bit shaky. Whereas what they do on this prison planet is they basically take everyone's universal translator away so that no one can form a resistance, because they're all different species, all from different planets, all with different languages, and that they just can't communicate with each other. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful seeing how that works. And then basically they're sort of working together without language necessarily, without spoken language necessarily. And then when they stumble upon the Protostar and activate all of the stuff, it basically goes, oh, here's universal translators. And then they start talking to each other properly and getting to know each other. And yeah, it's a wonderful beginning to a show. The first couple of episodes of Prodigy,
It is. It
very
is.
well written.
And what we find towards episode 6 is, because the Protostar is a prototype ship that has something called a Protostar engine. So
Yeah. We find out later what it is.
Yeah, we find out later what it is, but this engine has the ability to traverse vast distances in a very short space of time. So when this episode opens, the ship has already engaged this drive, and we find out that they have travelled 4,000 light years in a matter of minutes. Which
from the
is,
Delta Quadrant,
from
no
the
less.
Delta Quadrant, no less, which is absolutely insane. But we have.
Because in the previous episode to this, they were escaping from the Diviner. So basically, they were in a corner, and they basically just went, "Okay, let's activate the drive and see what happens." And they're like, "Oh, didn't expect to go that fast." But
we have
one thing I'll say before we even get to the episode, the intro, like it's back to the wonderful typical Star Trek intros for Prodigy, where we basically have the dramatic gravitas music, and then the protostar flying around the galaxy and whatnot, but with one change where it's a lot faster. It is so much more punchier and so much faster than the previous intros, and that just makes me think, oh, it's for the TikTok generation. It's the idea of going, hey, look, it's all a bit faster for you because no one has an attention span anymore.
The stylistic cues and the musical arrangements, it's very Star Trek 09. So the composer is Michael Giacchino, I believe. I think that's the name.
I do not know.
Forgive me if that's not the name. I'm just going to double check.
Giacchino, isn't that a coffee?
Shut your beautiful, handsome face before I sit on it.
Just insulting people's names. I'm a monster.
Michael Giacchino. He was the composer of the Star Trek themes from 09 to beyond. So he was brought on to do the Prodigy theme. The stylistic cues of the Protostar, it's very Star Trek 09. There's lens flares and lots of blues, and the computer's all blues and stuff. So I think it's a very, although it's the Prime universe, it's a very modern take to attract a younger audience. I mean, look at that Protostar.
It's a good balance.
It's very,
I'd say it's a balance between making it hip and fresh and the lens flare abominations that we got in the in those particular movies.
Exactly, yeah. So we have our core set of characters in Star Trek Prodigy. So we have Gwendala, who is the Diviner's daughter. We have Dal,
who is escaped from her, escaped from her father.
We have Dal right there in purple, who is the captain of this crew. We got Jankum Pog, who is a very small Tellarite, who is the engineer. We have got Roktok, who is also a very young scientist / engineer.
But she's massive. She's made of rock and she's huge, but then she's actually incredibly sensitive
as a Tangerine would say, she's huge. We've then got Murph, who is an unidentified alien race, who is just like a ball of like goo. We've got Zero, who is a Medusan, who, for those who didn't realise, the Medusans were only mentioned once, and that was in the season 3 of Star Trek: The Original Series, where the very sight of them drives you insane. So we've got Zero. Who else?
Which is crazy because they're a really interesting character because they basically don't have a physical form. They are basically just energy, and therefore what they are is they're kind of trapped inside a sort of a sphere.
It's like a containment field.
Yeah, it's like a containment field, but it's also a sort of like a mech suit. So basically they can interact with the physical world using this kind of floating mech
without
suit.
driving people insane as well.
But the wonderful thing is that, it's the typical Trek thing where they're a Medusan, they're very dangerous, and they're totally not human at all in terms of their sort of biology or anything like that. But then the character is possibly the most human out of the entire crew. And it's that beautiful Star Trek note that we get a lot of the time that works like that.
we see this crew. They have just come out of this whatever thing. They've travelled 4,000 light years. We've got holographic Janeway, who is the ship's AI, shall we say, for want of a better term. And yeah, so the synopsis of this episode for Kobayashi is: as Gwyn struggles to find her role aboard the USS Protostar, Dal tests his leadership skills in the newly discovered holodeck. Now, again, this episode, when it's introducing young fans to Star Trek and the technologies of Star Trek and the tropes, this is a brilliant episode to introduce the holodeck. You know, this is essentially a room where it's got thousands of simulations, thousands of programs, and you can do whatever you want. You can feel heat, cold, taste, and everything like that, and you can do whatever you want. But the episode with like I said, the episode starts with the Protostar dropping out. They've travelled 4,000 light years. They've escaped the Diviner for now, as we find out, and we also get a nice little background to Gwendala and the origins of Gwendala as well.
Well, there's three, but there's two main plot threads in this. One of them is basically Dal learning how to be a captain, you know, and like kind of trying to prove to himself that he has what it takes to be a captain. And then the other one is basically Gwendala sort of looking into her past, like thinking about her relationship with her father, but also trying to find the secret of the Protostar, of what is hidden inside this ship. Because they basically hit this impasse where Janeway, hologram Janeway, is the ship effectively and knows all of the things. But then when they actually start asking about what's the mission, what was the mission that the Protostar was on, then it's all hidden, it's all encrypted. And then when they start looking into it, they're like, wow, it's encrypted, but only in the language that the Diviner and Gwendala know, which basically means that the Diviner has done something to the ship, has locked things behind like a sort of encryption, and it's basically that is the second plot of them basically decoding all of that and then coming to a realization of going, oh, this is what the ship's actual purpose is. And then on top of that, and then there's a third one, which is it basically what Murph is? I don't know. There's a little side note.
It's more that, so there's an A-B plot. So the A plot is essentially they've escaped the Diviner. Where do they go now? They're in the Gamma Quadrant. Do they run free with the ship, or do they go to the Federation? And the overarching plot of the episode is Dal has installed himself as the captain of this crew.
He's decided that he's the captain,
and he's decided that he's a captain. And essentially, the crew want to go to the Federation. Dal does not want to go to the Federation, and he's basically saying, "As I am the captain, we will do what we want." So it's sort of a humbling episode for Dal, who learns that he needs to listen to his crew to, decide what is best, and that's where the holodeck situation comes in.
And the fact is, though, that they're both right in a way, where it's the fact of Dal's concern is we can't go to the Federation because they'll be like, why have you nicked our ship? Like, who are you? Why have you stolen our ship? Because he's coming from a place of distrust. That is his upbringing. He's coming from a place of going, hey, no, actually, you could, like they're gonna immediately see us as a bad thing. Whereas the rest of the crew are like, no, this is what we should do. Everything about Starfleet seems great. It seems like a really understanding place. We should go to them. And it's the fact that he refuses them. Even though everyone has the same, everyone except him agrees, he refuses because he's decided he's the captain. And so he basically goes, they obviously decide to just ignore him. They just go, hey, cool, we're actually going to go and work all of this out, which leads to the encryption plot. However, he goes, well, they'll respect me if I can pass this exam and become like if I can pass this exam, the Kobayashi Maru, and then I'll prove myself as a captain. And then he has this arc of realizing it's really difficult being a captain, and that's what Starfleet is for.
It's very much when they discover the holodeck, and Janeway goes, "This is the holodeck. You can do whatever you want." And we get shots of Jane Eyre and Transylvania and snowy Andor 4 and stuff like that. And then he discovers the Kobayashi Maru, and they quite lovingly recreate the Enterprise D bridge.
Yeah.
And they want a crew to.
But before we get to that, it's like I did like we have some references before then, which is basically when they get to the holodeck. Actually, there's two things in this episode that annoyed me a little bit, and one of them is the fact of that holodeck has the worst user interface ever, because Janeway is just showing them like sort of random things of going, hey, you could be on an ice planet, you could be falling through the air, you could be doing this, that, and the other, and then the next thing on the list of options in the menu is the Kobayashi Maru.
It's on shuffle.
I don't know who created. Yeah, I know. It was just, that is the most shuffled playlist I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like going, how about Riser, or maybe the most difficult exam in all of Starfleet.
It is the Spotify playlist of holodecks, isn't it? Because it's like you can go on Transylvania or Andor 4, or a no-win scenario where everyone dies. And you're just like,
no one categorized these at all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like putting shuffle on and getting like Ghost followed by the cheeky girls, being
it's
like, okay.
Great. When you think about it, this is the 6th episode of a brand new series, and it's saying to these viewers who've never seen Star Trek, this is the Kobayashi Maru. This is one of the most famous tests in all of Star Trek lore, and it's a test that all captains have to undertake and stuff like that, and blah 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 blah. And it's great because up until this point, like I have said, Dal is an arrogant, cocky little person that just needs humbling the fuck out of. And what we find in this episode, via the Kobayashi Maru, he gets partly humbled. He has to realize that he is not always right, and his way is not always the right way, and that you have to rely and listen to your crew and make impartial judgments based on all the evidence and all the information that you have at hand. It's not just a case of, I know what's right, I will do this.
But let's go into this though, because obviously, you were sending me messages about how much you dislike Dal as a character and whatnot. But the thing about Dal is Dal being dislikable is utter props to the writers.
Yeah.
Utter props to how good the writing on Prodigy is, because he's meant to be that way. He's a kid. It's this thing of going, kids literally are, let's run off and smash things for a laugh. Let's run off and dye our hair different colors. Like they have no idea how to be stable or do anything like that. And you very rarely get it. You get people who usually write for shows where they just write kids as small adults. And you're like, no, like, and we've got to think about Dal's background of like, because his background is all of the other characters know what race they are. They know what species they are. They know what planet they were originally from and whatnot. Dal has nothing. Dal doesn't know what species he's meant to be. He doesn't know where he's come from or who his family was at all. And that's kind of an arc throughout the show for him. And and the fact that he's so distrusting of everyone, the fact that he's not willing to work in a group with people, he's like, hey, I need to be in control. I'll tell everyone what to do, because that's how I feel safe, because I don't trust people, speaks volumes about what his life was like before the show started. And the fact that we get to see him having to do things his own way, but getting humbled by this episode, and then kind of slowly going, oh, that's why we do that. Like, you know what it's like, where you give someone advice and you say, don't do it this way, and then they ignore you. They do it the other way, and then after lots of failure, they eventually work out, oh yeah, I do it this way. Oh, that's why I have to do it that way. They had to fail themselves in order to listen.
It's very much a teenager where they go, a teenager who believes that they understand how the world works right down to a T, and then you go, no. This is how the world works, and they get, like I said, they get humbled because they, we've all been there. We have all been at that age where we go, I understand how the world works. Screw the world. I know how to do this. I'm never going to do this. And then you go, shit, actually, no, there's a reason why we do this and why we behave this way and why the world is like this. And you're like, what we see is, throughout this episode, Dal partly starting to understand that. And then all the way through season 1 of Prodigy and season 2 of Prodigy, we see Dal's transformation from this arrogant, cocky little teenager, shall we say, maturing and finally understanding why things are done the way they are done. And what we see with
it's almost like the Picard arc, where it's the idea of it took him getting stabbed and needing his heart to be replaced until he went, oh, actually, yeah, I'm a prick. You know,
yeah, exactly. It's that humbling of a character that helps them mature, because sometimes, you know, coming from our generation, sometimes you need a smack round the head to sort of ground you into reality and, you know, make you realize that the world is not always how you see it. 99
attempts at the Kobayashi Maru is a pretty hard slap in the head.
Yeah, exactly. But it shows, I mean, him going through the Kobayashi Maru, we'll get into that in a minute, but the amount of times he does it, and then the advice that he's getting, it's like sometimes you need to listen to you need to listen to your crew, you need to look at the situation impartially, and you need to take the advice on board in order to succeed, because your way sometimes is not the right way. And, you know, it is a great life lesson, and I think it's a great, I mean, I see it, or I used to see it all the time, where we would get young people coming into work, you know, this was their first job, and they would go, I know how this works, this is a piece of paper, I know how to do this, I can do it this way, and I can do it this way, and then they fail spectacularly, and then they get humbled out of their eyeballs, and then you see their transformation from, your way is not always the right way, and your attitude towards the situation is not the right attitude, and you have to understand that there are other varying factors. There is information you need to take into consideration. There are other people's feelings and thoughts, and you see that transformation. And the amount of times I was the same.
It is the difference between intelligence and wisdom.
Yeah,
it's why they are different stats in D&D, because there is a big distinction between them. But as a child, you tend to have one or the other, and then you kind of gain the other as you get older.
But it's also intelligence and experience, and you could be the most knowledgeable person of a subject if you have never practiced that subject.
Yeah.
Then you don't.
Or if you're an insufferable prick. And then no one will listen to you. You know,
I'm not saying a word because I do not want to be denied entry again. But the it's that, you know, you need to, you could have all the textbook knowledge, but if you don't have the practical experience of a subject, and you refuse to take the wisdom of people who have that textbook experience, because we all know, I mean, we all know when we've done jobs and, you know, we think, oh, we can do it this way because this is how we were taught to do it, and then you've got people on the job going, yeah, there's that way, or we can do it this way and save loads of times and be more efficient, or we can just do this. Sometimes you need that outside of the box thinking. You need the wisdom and experience of others to make a better informed decision. And this is what Dal learns in this episode, I think.
And that's it, and it's an important thing. It's like the fact of, if he wants to be a captain, it's a hard road, but this is like his first faltering steps in it. So but yeah, like you were saying, he basically goes, oh, okay, cool, this Kobayashi Maru, it sounds like a piece of piss, I'll do this. And then basically the computer goes like, oh, you know, who do you want as your crew? And he basically just goes, oh, you decide for me, give me, like, you know, give me some of the best.
Yeah.
And this is my other complaint about this episode, okay? And I want to know if you agree with me. I want you, if you viewers agree with me here. So the crew that he gets, hold on, I've written it down. I should know this, obviously, but you know, so we get Uhura as communications officer. Makes perfect sense. We get Spock as the what is it, second in command? The
first officer,
which is brilliant. Jankampog, who is joining him on it, takes the space of the chief engineer in this scenario. However, now we know my feelings about Beverly Crusher as a science officer. as a chief medical officer, where it's the idea of as a running joke we have on this podcast of just like that I genuinely just feel like Beverly Crusher isn't actually trained as a doctor, but it was Nurse Ogawa doing everything. So
Are you saying?
basically,
I was about to say,
on
are
the
you saying
days
she's
when Nurse
Harold
Ogawa was
Shipman
off,
of doctors in Starfleet?
I'm just saying, like literally, Nurse Ogawa calls in sick, everyone dies that day. You know, it just I came in with a rash. Just
Next thing, my
yeah.
arm's off.
Yeah, so it is like Crusher as the chief medical officer. I'm like going, you could have had the doctor, you could have had Phlox, you could have had like anyone. Okay, but it's a nice little, it's a reference, it's fan service, it's lovely.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing I have a problem with, okay, and I love it, they pick Odo as chief security officer.
At the
Can
helm.
you imagine a universe where Starfleet would go, that's a good example of a security officer. Like, he is the most gung-ho person in all, like, the conflicts they have between Starfleet going, this is how you're supposed to do things, and Odo going, no, this is what I'm going to do. Like, he's brilliant, he gets results, but he does not fit at all into the Starfleet thing, to the point where I refuse to believe a Starfleet computer would be like, that's him. You know,
I want to ask Aaron Waltke directly about this right now.
Okay.
For security officer, why Odo over Tuvok?
Well, the thing is, we know why Odo's there, and it ties back to what you were saying at the beginning of your reasons for having trepidation about this episode. This is wonderful fan service. Like, it's the idea of the reason why these characters are included over other ones, the reason why Odo is there, and the reason why Spock is there, and the reason why, well, not at the, you know, why we get Scotty later on, and why Uhura's there, which we didn't know at the time, but it helps now, is because these actors have passed on. So this was like a lovely homage to them where, and I disagree with you in that it's insulting. Well, no, you didn't say that, but you know, I'm putting words in your mouth. But like, it's insulting to have these characters there and then have all of their lines in this as sound clips from them in other shows, like from other episodes where they've taken lines that Rene Auberginois said as Odo in DS9 and they fitted them into this episode. But for me, my 2 cents is I like that they did this because there's so many other ways of doing it, of either sort of getting someone else to voice the character and trying to echo them, or even worse, using AI. Like, they could have easily put trained AI on the voice of like Rene Auberginois or Leonard Nimoy, and got a perfect performance and got them saying whatever they wanted. But instead, they're like, no, we're gonna have the same sound quality. Like, you can hear the fuzz in the Spock lines. You can hear like a little bit of. You can hear that some of the Odo lines don't fit perfectly with what they're going to say, but it makes it a beautiful homage to me, where they're like going, "We're going to put these characters in to go. Here's a final hurrah. Here's." Yeah, that's how it feels to me, and I think it's beautiful.
When I first watched this episode, I was disappointed that they'd done this because I thought it was just they were just sound clipping and it didn't sound right, and it was very jarring at first. When I have rewatched the episode, I get it. I understand it, and I understand why they picked who they picked, because like Synoiz has said, it is a homage to these characters that are no longer here. We've got Rene Auberginois who passed away, Nichelle Nichols who passed away, we've got James Doohan who passed away, and obviously Leonard Nimoy who passed away. Then we've got Gates McFadden, who, let's be honest, you know, this was a good cameo. This was before Picard season 3 came out.
Yeah.
So this was the Enterprise D bridge. This was a homage to the greatest hits of Star Trek in this episode. We had the Enterprise D bridge, we got all these key characters who are no longer with them, and from really listening to the script and the dialogue, the way that they were able to formulate a cohesive script throughout those scenes using the sound clips of the characters mixed with Dal and Gates's and Jenkin's live,
Yeah.
Jason Mantzoukas and stuff like that, all their live dialogue. It was brilliant. It was fantastic the way that they did it. It was clever the way they did it. And upon reflection, my opinion changed based on new evidence and based on new information, because that is what rational human beings do.
If
But
only the UK National Court could be doing that right now.
if
and
only the
maybe
planet
looking
could
at all
listen.
of the evidence before making stupid
Yeah.
decisions.
And you know, you look at this and you go, yeah, this was all a homage, but it was these key characters that they were the best of the best when you think about it. Yes, Odo was questionable. Why didn't we have Tuvix or Warfare? Blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, it
But
would have been
it
Tuvix. There's
it was-
no way that the
Tuvix
computer would not
is
have put
dead.
Tuvix in it.
Tuvok. Tuvix is
Tuvok!
dead.
Oh,
We
sorry,
murdered
no,
him.
It would have been Tuvix. There we go.
Justice for
There's
Tuvix.
the fan service.
But it's there was a reason why they did it. There was a reason why Spock was, and the reason why it was Nimoy over Peck that did the voice. And I get it, and I understand it, and I understand why Aaron and the rest of the team did it the way that they did it. And my opinion of the episode, on further review, on a high, analysis of the episode, has changed. And I really like the episode because of the way that they did it.
This was the thing. Like, the thing is, obviously, I disagreed with you when you put it into the worst thing. Is I was like, really? That's not that bad, that one. And but I'm glad you did, because I'm glad that we got some representation for Prodigy in the wheel.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, not to naysay, there's a lot of amazing Trek out there, and when we were picking episodes, it kind
really
of
hard.
fell through the net.
Yeah.
It was the fact of, when we've got to pick our 12 best episodes of Trek, there's so much of it, that it was like, it was unlikely that we were going to get Prodigy in there. 'Cause it's really
hard.
good, but it's not.
But what you have to realize, what people have to realize is, right, 950 plus episodes, but it's not a negative thing to not have much Strange New Worlds, Prodigy, Lower Decks, blah 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 blah, because we're not saying that they're bad. We're just saying that there is so many good episodes that we could easily have 10, 20, 30 episodes of Prodigy in there. We could have 15 episodes of Strange New Worlds and 10 episodes of Picard, blah 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 blah. You have to distill it down to those episodes that have resonated with us for so long, for many years. That
the older episodes have a head start on us, basically.
They have a head start, and look, once we get through them, we have got plenty more to cover, and we've got plenty more of good episodes to cover. And like I said, Prodigy, especially season 2 of Prodigy, it is good, and it's again a travesty. It is a travesty that series like this are not renewed. That these are gateway series to get people into the franchise.
Prodigy is incredible, Strange New Worlds is absolutely incredible, and then they're kind of like, oh, maybe they won't get a full run, and you're like, I will burn down a building if they don't.
So the thing is with Hollywood, that I coin Hollywood bullshit, is when it comes to series now, modern day series, right? Take Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, I am 99.9% certain will not go past season 5. Now, that's not to say that it's a bad show, that it's got bad reviews, that it's badly written, badly directed. No, it is a brilliant Star Trek series. Absolutely damn near perfect. The reason that it will not go past season 5 is because when it is renewed after season 5, Paramount Pictures, Paramount whatever, CBS, Paramount, whatever they want to call themselves on any given day, have to pay royalties to the stars of the show. They have to give them royalties if a series goes past 5. So if we get a season 6, it has to be because that series is ludicrously successful and prints the franchise money. If it doesn't, it's dead. This is why we didn't get anything further from Lower Decks. Discovery and stuff like that, it's because there is a 5-series cap, and it is just the way that modern TV
Isn't
streaming
it great that
shows
money
go.
ruins everything? It's
Yeah,
almost
it
like the
ruins.
main lesson that we should draw from Star Trek is fuck capitalism, fuck money. You
Yeah,
know, let
but
people just exist.
it is one of those things, and this is why they quite cleverly go, well, this is ending, but this spin-off's starting, and do you know what, with this spin-off, it's got a few of the stars of that other show that you like in it. Take Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
Take Starfleet Academy, right? That is a direct sequel to Star Trek Discovery. It is going to have Mary Wiseman from Star Trek Discovery. It's going to have the Dadmiral from Star Trek Discovery, right? But they don't have to pay them royalties because this is a new series. So it's very easy for them to squander out of it. And the show has to be a financial success. But again, the problem is, the reason why they are not becoming such financial successes is behind the scenes, they are not giving it the backing of the merchandise, the marketing, the heavy presence. They are just going, oh yeah, there's a new Star Trek show, see you later, bye.
Yeah, and we've put it on our own channel that there is no reason to get. There is no reason to have this channel.
When I was on my
other than being a hardcore fan of that thing that you don't know you like yet.
Look, when I was on my top secret mission, right, for a good part of Section 31, not the shit one, not the one that cost 90 million and made nothing, was I had access to Paramount Plus. Okay, now it was on a TV, it was fully updated, good internet signal. I had so many errors with Paramount Plus all the way through my journeys, right? And I mean, it was bad, man. Like, it would just either not load, it would freeze, it wouldn't load live TV. And this was funny because this was not only on the TV that I was watching it on, it was on other devices, shall we say, that I was watching it on, that also had issues, where I was watching Yellowstone. Okay, never seen Yellowstone. I saw it on and I thought, I'm going to give this a watch. I bloody loved the first episode, and then I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to watch the next episode. Then the next episode I was like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on, because I'd realised that Paramount Plus had skipped episode 2 and moved directly to episode 3 and then finished episode 3 and moved to episode 5.
There are interesting things. Like, I noticed, I forgot what it was, but I was watching something and it had like the skip intro thing.
Yeah.
And then one time it just skipped into the episode, and then another time it just skipped into halfway through the intro. And you're like, nope, the intro's still going. You know, it's just like, I don't know who did the timings on this, but they're wrong.
Look, Paramount need to realise, right, and they've seen it with the success of Yellowstone.
We've gone
Netflix.
totally off track here. I'm sorry, anyone watching, listening.
Whatever.
We've gone massively off
But
track.
Paramount need to realise, right, their streaming service is not working, and they get more commercial success when their content is on other streaming services. You look at the top 10. Go look at the top 10 of Netflix in the UK. Go look at the top 10. Yellowstone. Straight away, Yellowstone is on there. That's been on for ages. It's still in the top 10. Why? Because you've give it to a wider audience who've gone, this is fucking brilliant. Why have I never seen this? Because it was on a streaming service that A, was buggy all the time, and B, was expensive. No one's going to pay for that. Yeah,
I think the best thing is, like,
I
I watch all of the Star Trek I can on Netflix simply because I can find it on Netflix. On Paramount, I'm just kind of going like, hang on, how do I search again? Like, oh,
you can
okay,
find
you
it on
didn't find
Netflix.
it?
You can find it on Netflix, but also the app runs smoothly.
Yeah.
And it's not interrupting, it's not slow, there's no buffering. Like, if I'm watching something on Paramount Plus and I've got 1 gig plus broadband and I am still having issues with Paramount Plus, what? Anyway,
so,
we
on a
digress.
scale of 1 to 10, how likely is our Paramount Plus sponsorship?
9.
Looking.
So we, yeah. But anyway, back to the episode.
Back to the episode.
Yeah,
yes.
back to
But
the.
anyway,
Oh, that's
yeah,
our
so
first tangent in a while.
They get the crew, and they fucking gone massively over. Yeah, they basically get this crew together, and then Dal has an attempt at the Kobayashi Maru and then gets frustrated because he realizes how difficult it is. Because it's the
Because he
Kobayashi
doesn't
Maru
listen
in
to
this
his crew either.
scenario is that there is the ship Kobayashi Maru that needs help. It needs people transported off it and sort of moved to safety. However, when they try to get to it, 3 Klingon battleships appear, and then he needs to deal with that. And what we see is him sort of going. What we see is very telling because his first decision is just to escape. His first decision is to go, hey, I'll solve the problem by just running away. So we'll just run away from the Klingons.
Does anyone know these people?
Yeah, does anyone know these people? Do they care? No? Well, okay, let's move on. And the crew immediately mutiny. Like Uhura and Odo immediately go, well, I'm not putting up with this. Like, we have to help these people. And it's a bit odd because that shouldn't happen in Starfleet. They should always assume that the captain. We do see a lot of Starfleet blindly following orders. However, in this one, they are quite quick to jump to the, hey, we're not doing that. But
these are the best of the best.
Part of the test.
Yeah, they are the best of the best, and they're not going to take that because they have a moral compass.
So, what we see though is we see Dal doing a lot of attempts at it, and each time it fails. Each time he realizes that he can't fight his way out of the scenario. He can't escape in any way, shape, or form, and he can't negotiate with it. And then realizing just how difficult it is. But after a while, and obviously we move between the different plot threads in this episode, after a while, he realizes that he's not listening to his crew. He's not doing the Picard maneuver of basically going, hey, so thoughts? Any ideas from anyone of what we should do? And when he starts doing that, it starts opening different possibilities up.
Yeah.
But the hilarious thing is, on the 99th attempt, he pretty much actually does it. He pretty much does it by being absolutely insane, by being absolutely chaotic.
But then his hubris gets the best of him. Yeah.
Well,
no,
yeah.
Hubris, go on.
Well, what we have, okay, is we have it where he gets around the Kobayashi Maru almost in a Kirk way by basically being so unpredictable and so chaotic that the program isn't actually factoring any of it in, where they immediately eject the warp core into the Klingon ships, put metal music on, fire at the warp core to detonate it to blow up all the Klingon ships, and then the plan is to impulse engine over to the Kobayashi Maru and then start rescuing people. The problem is one of the Klingon ships survives, and he gets very frustrated and then basically works out that they can actually teleport. So Spock teleports him and Spock over to the Klingon bridge, and they immediately shoot all the Klingons and take control of the Klingon ship. That then affords him a warp-capable ship that can go and rescue the survivors. Yeah, so he basically does solve the thing. However, in a bit of a joke of the episode, he puts his feet up like celebrating his success, knocks a button, and accidentally blows up the ship. Accidentally sort of Is it the Enterprise he blasts?
It's the Enterprise D, yeah.
Yeah, so he basically blows up the Enterprise and goes, oh, okay. And then the thing I don't like, though, is we talked about the sound clips that they use of the characters, and they basically use dialogue from different episodes in order to fill in their speech for it. And we get a wonderful speech from Spock, and you'll be able to tell me specifically which speech it is in more detail. But we get a wonderful speech from Spock, but it does feel a bit misplaced. Like the wording doesn't really fit the scenario. It does feel very shoehorned in, and I think they could have done better here. But it was nice hearing the speech again.
This is why I sort of it would have flowed better, because out of all the characters that we get, Spock is the one that has the most dialogue, besides Gates. So I feel that Ethan Peck would have been more suitable to the role, because there would have been more fluidity within the dialogue, and it would have been more adaptable, and it would have been just a better rapport between Dal and Spock. But I get why they brought in Leonard Nimoy. But I understand where you're coming from, where the speech that they used in the original series does not flow within this between Dal and Spock. It just feels very chopped and very broken in certain
Yeah,
ways.
it doesn't work. Like he says stuff about like the crew or whatever, and yeah, he's talking about the crew, and it's like the crew are all dead. That's the
Yeah.
joke. The joke is that they've just blown up the Enterprise, so it's just those two that
Yeah.
survived. But it's like they couldn't modify the dialogue. But I will say though, like as a drag performer, I have the utmost respect for what they did because it's
Yeah, yeah.
very difficult. Like I've done a Star Trek drag performance, which I found randomly on my hard drive the other day, and I was listening to it and I was laughing at how stupid it is. It's really dumb. But I had to watch so much. I had to rewatch so many episodes just to find the lines I wanted, of just being like, where's an instance where Riker says this, or where's an instance like the one bit where Riker says like sort of get that man off the bridge,
Yeah.
like uh and I was just like, what episode is that?
You
And I was
just
searching
killed
the
us
internet.
all.
Yeah, just going through everything, trying to find that episode, and then
Yeah.
recording that specific sound clip so I could use it in a performance, and just realizing that that's what the writers had to do.
Yeah.
The writers had to sit down, and when they were doing the script, being like, "Wait, we need something that Odo said that fits this scenario. We need something Spock said."
I will not be a part of this.
Yeah, it's just like I'm resigning my commission, and I know he says that like 3 times over the course of DS9 because that's his first move in any scenario. He's just like, I'm not getting my way. Well, I quit. Also, why he would never be picked by a Starfleet computer to be chief of security. It's just like
Finding
that,
chiefs of
that
security
would be like the Labour government
non-commissioned.
picking Corbyn as for something, being like,
Ooh.
it would never happen because he was too good at his job.
No! Hang on. Oh shit! Where is it? No!
Oh, I'll get my tea. Oh,
Oh!
would you
Anyway.
believe?
But enough
Put
about
me
this
cup
doomed
down.
country. But yeah, but he does learn a valuable lesson that he needs to listen to his crew, and that a captain's decision is based on all the evidence that you have to hand, and sometimes there is just no way to win. This is the whole point of the Kobayashi Maru. It's designed to humble those people that think that there is a solution to every problem, that there is always a way out, and there isn't. And you have to accept that. You have to come to terms with that sometimes
It's
the worst will happen.
the fact is that there are solutions to the Kobayashi Maru, but they're bloody ones. The Kobayashi Maru, if you can solve it, it's a Pyrrhic victory. It is.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's the fact of everyone's trying to do the perfect solution. Everyone's trying to sort of like we see in the Troy episode where Troy is doing the captain exam and she has to do not this one, but effectively her exam is the same thing, where the way to solve it is to kill a crew member. Like literally order a crew member to do something that will result in his death.
Yep.
And then you solve it, and it's something that you never want to do. It's something that you would never ever normally do, but that's what being a captain is. It's going, hey, there isn't a perfect solution. This is the best we can manage.
Making those tough decisions.
The same as we have in Generations. It's the idea of going, we managed to save a couple of people from that ship. We didn't manage to get everyone. That's literally the best we could have managed.
Yeah. So.
But, and then the other, so that's basically what happens in this plot, and it's lovely.
Yeah.
But in the other plot, it's basically about Gwyn and the rest of the crew sort of working out what the hidden mission is, what the encrypted mission is. But it's also about Gwyn finding her place on the crew, because in the previous episode, she shouldn't be there. She basically sort of made friends with them all, but then when they realized she's the diviner's daughter, there's like a wedge between them because they don't know if she's a bad guy or not, and her basically wanting to follow her father's orders, but then realizing, oh, actually I'm on the wrong side effectively. And it's her finding her place on this crew where she doesn't know where she fits in. And it's difficult because Dal, like we say, is a dickhead. Dal is a teenager who is...
He's a 17-year-old.
Yeah, he is a
quintessential
perfect
17-year-old.
example
Yeah.
of a teenager. Like, because he says something, okay, when she... when she basically asks him, "Why did you come back and save me?" And that's why she's there. And Dahl says, "Oh, it's because Janeway wouldn't let us leave without everyone."
Mm.
And he says it to hurt her. He says it to basically go, "Hey, we didn't want to save you, but we had to." And then later on in the episode, it's actually revealed, no, Dahl made that call all by himself. We could have left you, but he specifically didn't want to.
Yeah.
And that says more about Dahl than it does about, the other things, because it's the idea of that's what you do. I don't know if you had this when you were a kid, but when you really liked someone, you tended to be a dick to them. I don't know if it's a boy thing
The
or
first
not.
sign of the first sign of love is hate.
Yeah,
That's
I
sometimes what
literally,
they
when I
always
was
say.
in school, when I was in like sort of middle school, I think it was, there was a guy who I really fancied. He's probably my first crush. And I was such a shithead to him. And you
Yeah.
realize, and you see it with like boys literally pulling girls' hair or chasing
Yeah.
them or being dickheads to them because they like them. And it's just this weird, yeah, what a perfect plan. That's a great idea.
But
And I just kind of like that they kind of work this in where Dal has a thing for Gwyn, but
he wants to act
you know,
tough as well.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
trying to be a tough guy, thinking that'll work, and it
No.
won't. And
He would look
everything
like
that
a
goes
dick.
against the image he's trying to do is what endears her to him. It's and I just love it. Like I can gush
Yeah.
about the writing all I want, but it's the fact of when we see Discovery and all I can do is complain about how boring the characters are and how boring the writing is and how uninspired it all is. It's lovely being able to talk over Prodigy and go, yeah, this is meant to be a kid show, and the writing is fucking way too good for a kid
But
show.
you get like great exposition. Gwendala, she was not born; she was cloned. And
Yeah,
and what I love, I mean, again,
for a
this
purpose. And that's
Prodigy.
got to be the
Yeah.
biggest kicker. You got made to do something,
Yeah.
and that's like, yeah, there's something
You
off
are a
about
tool.
that.
You are a
Yeah.
tool. But again, this is a Trek show made by Trekkies because you see the origins of Gwyn, and they go stardate 43929.9 2366. So they are continuing like the rock solid timeline narrative of this was 2366, this was 17 years ago, this was 43299, this is how star dates are measured in Star Trek from the Next Generation. So you know exactly when this event occurred, and this is when Gwendala was born, and this is where she was raised, and she became a clone of the Diviner, and she was his progeny to carry on his quest if he was not well enough to do so because he is the last of the species, and stuff like that. And it's great. It's great writing, it's great exposition, but then we also get the exposition from Janeway's hologram where what was the mission of the protostar? I don't know, it was classified, and then we see when they finally unlock it,
Yeah, at the end of the episode,
using Gwendala's, using the language of her people, we get more reveals and we get great exposition. We get to see Chakotay, who was the actual captain of the protostar. Why was he there? We don't know, but it does what Discovery didn't do, as in it gives you a satisfying enough explanation per episode to keep you engaged. Whereas, when you look at
it
other
has
series,
a plot per episode.
yeah,
but then also has an overarching plot
but
going
gives you
on
just
that
enough.
keeps you going.
Yeah, it gives you just enough. Whereas Discovery is just like, we will talk for 51 minutes and then the last 10 seconds we'll give you this tiny little bit of information. Whereas this, it's like all the way through. This is the holodeck. This is the Kobayashi Maru. This is how Gwendala was born. This was when it happened. This is why, why does the Diviner want this? Well, he's put this into the ship. Why would Starfleet have this language if they've never blah, 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 blah. And it just continues all the way through, and then when at the end of the episode you go, no, I want to see the next one now. I want to know why that was in there.
And that's
why
what happened.
Chakotay's
I am not a person to binge stuff. I one of my pet peeves is when a new show comes out and then you get people, and no shade, but we have this on Nerdy Up North where like when Stranger Things comes out and it gets released at like midnight, like the new series of it, literally 4 a.m, you'll have people being like, I've watched all of it, and it's like, wow, that's kind of like sort of not really savoring the dessert, is it? That's like
I was in bed with my wife.
Yeah, but it's this thing of just going like, I, wow, like I that's why I loved Picard. I loved the fact that we had to take it slow. We got one episode a week. We got one episode a week, and it gave us a week to discuss stuff, to chat about stuff, to go maybe it's this, maybe it's this, come up with fan theories and stuff like that. Like, and that's what I want to do. Like for instance, Andor, like the new Star Wars show,
They've done
and I
chapters.
finally caught up with Andor season one like 2 weeks ago when I finally was free from work and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is incredible. This is absolutely amazing. I love this. And then the new shows came out and it's given 3 episodes. I'm like, no, I think I'm going to pace myself. So it's like 3 episodes and then it's going to be weekly. So I'm glad that it's forcing me to pace myself.
The one thing that Paramount does well with Star Trek is that it's weekly. That they will give you an episode a week, which is brilliant, and it builds up that hype. And they learned this from, they did it with Discovery, but Picard was really the cherry on the cake because it built that excitement, that anticipation, the speculation, and more people were talking about it as the weeks went on. And when you see an episode is so good that it gives you that information on an overarching story and it wants you to know more, and this is what Prodigy did. If Prodigy, it was, when you think about it, the first season was weekly, and every week you had a new episode of Prodigy, and like I said with Kobayashi and stuff like that, you had that, oh god, I really want to know what's going to happen next week now. They've just done this, they've activated the virus, what's going to happen? Oh my god, there's the Dauntless, they've met the actual Janeway, what the hell? And and it's brilliant because it has a satisfying plot of the week, and then it also satisfies the overarching story by just giving you just amount of information to keep you engaged until the next week. And that is brilliant, and it's not a massive letdown. They don't just, because this was one of the failings with Discovery, where they would give you a drip feed of information, big it up to be some sort of monumental cliffhanger, and then the next week it's like, yeah, but it wasn't that important anyway, so we're going to do this, and it's just
that's it. It's the worst thing. Like, you get it in like bloody American shows where they basically have like, it's the midway through ones, where they have the advert break and they have the sort of like, and they're always crap. They're always just like, oh, it wasn't anything, and you're just like, really. It's just...
But like I said, the cliffhanger for this episode is that they gain access to the Protostar's mission logs, and they find out that the captain of the ship is Chakotay, and that it was sent into the Delta Quadrant for a reason. We don't yet know what that reason was, but the cliffhanger ends that Chakotay is in the captain's chair, they're under attack, and holographic Janeway sees another holographic Janeway and realizes that the Prodigy crew that she's got now is not her first crew, and that's how it ends. That is how an episode should end. It is a decent cliffhanger. It's not everything's on the line and it's life and death. It is just, there is substantially more information for me to learn in the next episode because this has just been revealed here, and then it makes you want to go into that next episode and binge that and find out more all the way. But for me, I have really changed my mind on Kobayashi. I regret putting it in the double wheel of shame. I absolutely agree with the way that they went on this show. I think it's a well-written show by Aaron J. Walkey, and excellently directed as well. I think the little homages to Trek of the past, where we get to see Scotty, Spock, Uhura, Odo, we get to see the Enterprise D bridge, and we just get tiny little tidbits all the way through the episode of, the holodeck can do this, and the Kobayashi Maru.
I want to talk about some of the little Easter eggs because we get a wonderful bit, and you've got a picture of it in the cycle that we see, but it's basically the bit where Janeway's suggesting different holodeck programs for them to be using, and then she goes, "What about this Jane Eyre one?" And then we immediately get this, this Jane Eyre sort of fantasy thing appear, and both of the guys like look at each other and they're like, "No, no," and that's when they flick to the Kobayashi Maru one.
Yeah.
But I love the idea, the little nod to that. I love having Odo there. I love like Scotty and the lines that they used for Scotty. I love that they've got a bit where Spock basically does his big speech, and then he does the Vulcan salute, the Vulcan sign to Dal, and Dal high fives him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's clever. We've never actually seen that interact. That sounds like something that we would get in one of the movies,
Yeah.
but I love that it actually has that. And the other thing is in the flashback to the Diviner, when Gwyn's going into her past and how she was cloned and created, we get to see Dreadnought. I
Yeah.
think it's called Dreadnought.
I think so, yeah.
Dreadnought is iconic. Like, he is one of my favorite things from Prodigy, because he's basically the evil robot. There it is. That's the that's the Jane Eyre bit.
Dreadnought, you are correct. Yeah, you are
Yeah,
correct.
Dreadnought. He is the robot servant of the Diviner, and it turns out that the race that the Diviner and Gwendal are a part of, the species that they're part of, have these as aids. But they are the
Yeah.
most terrifying machines. They are so malleable. They are really, really scary, and I love it. I genuinely, the first couple of episodes where we get to see Dreadnought like doing what he does, of basically trying to attack people and stalk people, and he's
Yeah.
like literally transforming into stuff. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's like Hordak, where he's just got all these gizmos and stuff that he can
Yeah.
do. And one of my gripes with Prodigy is that I never feel like the Dreadnought or the Dreadnoughts got enough to do. I love them too much. I want a figure. Does merch exist for them, do you reckon?
Merch for Prodigy
Can I
exists,
get?
but
Can
not
I?
for
Hold on,
Dreadnought.
I'm gonna Google it. Can I action figure?
I don't believe Dreadnought exists. I think it would be far too complex. Maybe because we do have Nacelle, who are producing lesser known characters. So Nacelle at the moment, huge shout out to Nacelle, by the way, because when I tell Synoiz.
Oh damn it! I thought there was one, but it turns out to just be General Grievous from from Star Wars.
When I tell Synoiz,
kind of close, but not as cool, I don't think.
When I tell Synoiz what figures Nacelle are currently doing, he's probably going to lose his collective shit. So Nacelle, the new highly detailed figure company, for £23 per figure, you can have.
I have £23.
More than me. Captain Jellicoe. Rachel Garrett from Yesterday's Enterprise,
and not that other thing.
Two Vix.
Oh god.
Val Chris.
Does it have like instant separating action? Like, is there a button on its back where it just splits into?
With real kung fu murder. Val Chris from The Search for Spock. Captain Archer in Mirror Universe original series green uniform.
Yeah.
Wei Yoon from Deep Space
Yes!
Nine.
Yes.
Wei Yoon from This is Wave 1. Okay, so for just 172 English pounds, you can get Jellicoe, Garrett, Tuvix, Captain Sulu from the Excelsior, Val Chris, Mirror Universe Archer, Wei Yoon, and Peter Preston, who was Scotty's nephew from the Wrath of Khan. That's just Wave 1. It is insane. But they are going out of their way. They are going out of their way to make the lesser known figures, which in Wave 2 is Kirk from Generations, Captain Janeway in grey vest from Voyager, LaForge from the HMS Enterprise scene in Generations, Worf in HMS Enterprise scene in Generations, Carol Marcus from the Wrath of Khan, to Paul from the Season 3 look, the Romulan Commander from Ballads of Terror, Nog from DS9 from the Siege of AR-558.
Oh wow! Wait, that's when he still had both his legs.
Even better, the Captain Kirk figure comes with a horse and an axe. Yeah, so you got Romulan Commander, and then you got Valeris from Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
That's so much. Although I will say, I'm going to give a quick shout out to my wonderful friend who we both met at Star Trek Las Vegas, Scott from Starfleet.archives on Instagram. He's been showing off his action figure of Captain Archer. He's got Captain Archer, but it comes with Porthos. Comes a little mini Porthos. And it's so cute.
Oh.
So check out Starfleet.archives on Instagram, and it's little. Oh, I'm looking at him now. He's so cute, little Porthos.
We'll give him a
That's
little
what we want.
mention in our description below. Do you have any other notes for Kobayashi?
No, all I'm gonna say is that I love one of the lines in it, which is the Dahl's realization of what he's been missing this whole time, which is maybe I should be using these ears as much as I'm using my mouth.
Yes.
And it's like that is a very good quote. It's a very nice little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good. The one of my other complaints, okay, it's not really a complaint. It's more it shows how advanced the technology is, obviously in Star Trek. But there's a bit, okay, where basically when they realize that there's a sort of the encrypted data in the system, but where they basically Janeway, who is AI, they basically ask Janeway sort of like, "Oh, what was the mission?" And she says, "I have no idea." Have you tried getting AI to actually admit that it has no fucking clue what it's talking about? It is impossible. The whole thing is programmed to be like, and it is. It's literally called. Oh, what's it called? Not imagining. Hallucinating.
Yeah.
Because it is trained to always give you an answer. So even if you ask it something really bizarre that it can't find the answer for, like searching the internet or something so specific it can't come up with something, it'll just make an answer up. And it is the most frustrating trait of anything ever, where you just go, "Hey, can you help with this really specific thing?" And it goes, "Here's loads of search results for stuff that isn't related to what you're asking
This is
about."
what happened
You're like,
to me.
yeah, and you're just sitting there being like, "No, just say no." Like,
Yeah.
and then I was discussing it with a technician of going, well, you could set parameters for if you are within, like, if you are less than 80% certain about something, then just say you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not natural for it. This is why you just go, it's just a marketing thing. It's just another bloody search engine. At the end of the day.
This is what happened to me, because obviously Google employs its new AI to do searches, and because I'd given a specific question, holodeck episode Star Trek Prodigy, it just gave one. It didn't give multiple, it just gave one. But I feel like, I don't know if anyone else does this, and this is my one last tangent before we move on. I feel when you look at the AI generated videos, they are so close to a human dream as physically possible, where nothing looks accurate and everything's just a little bit disjointed and jarring, and it feels like you're in your own fever dream. And I mean, I've just had influenza for the second time this year, like since January, so I've been through the ringer, and I had those fever dreams, and I remember it was so vivid, and yet it was so unclear at the same time. I was on, and you're gonna laugh at this, I was giving testimony at the Titanic inquiry in April 1912 at the Waldorf in New York. I'm not even joking. I could tell you it was April the 19th, 1912. I was at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. I was wearing a black suit, white shirt with a collar turned up, and I was giving a testimony to the structural soundness of the hull of the Titanic. I don't know why my brain went there. I don't know why. I mean, for hours, I genuinely believed that this was going on. But like to think back to that and look at AI videos, it's exactly the same thing, where everything looks so real and yet doesn't at the same time.
Wait, I think the problem is that people just put so much trust in it. Sorry, I'm checking my phone trying to find an example of something because it was brilliant. Because it was this, like, it's the fact that it's dangerous that it works this way. Like, imagine if the Janeway hologram, like the basically the ship computer, was able to just lie to them and say, that'll be fine, when it's not. And that's the problem that we have with AI. It's the idea of going, the more human we try to make it, the worse it gets, because we shouldn't be trying to make things act like they're humans, because then they're going to be innately flawed, because that's being human. That's literally the whole plot of Data, But it's the idea, like, what was the trick I got shown the other day? If you make up a phrase, so you just make up a stupid thing, okay, and you put it in quotes, and you put it into Google, so you just be like, sort of, 20 pillows is better than 5 ducks, and then you just basically put phrase meaning afterwards,
I'm doing that now.
the AI will generate a meaning for it, trying to guess what it is, even though it's not a saying. And it doesn't go, hang on, that's not a real phrase that ever exists. I'd try it, but hold on, I'll do one now, okay? It's actually go to Google because it's not like
It's not working. My AI's not working.
Is it not? Okay.
No.
Hold on. 20 ducks is
Oh, hang on.
better than
An AI overview
Hello,
is not
please.
available for this search. Oh,
is it not?
learning.
Okay.
Anyway. But you know, yeah, it's. I just see AI videos as a fever dream, and AI intelligence, the way that it's going, it tripped me up. For this review, it tripped me up.
Not
because
doing
gave
it,
me,
damn it.
yeah, but it gave me the wrong episode name for what I wanted, where I had put, holodeck episode of Prodigy that featured, Spock and stuff like that, and it gave me the wrong episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they must have turned it off, if I'm perfectly honest, the AI.
will.
They might have had some problems with it, but yeah, we were having fun with it the other day, basically just getting it to typing in nonsense stuff and then asking it for what the meaning of it was, and then it would just kind of go, well, it sounds a bit like this phrase, so we'll just extrapolate that it might be talking about this. Anyway, we have gone massively over tangent.
We have, because that was our review of Kobayashi from Star Trek.
Final
Prodigy.
thing.
Oh my god,
The wonderful message at the end. The wonderful message at the end where it basically says, in memory of Rene Auberjonois, James Doohan and Leonard Nimoy, who inspire us to go boldly. Yeah. And the only shame is that this episode was produced before we lost Nichelle Nichols, because she is equally honored in this episode. It is equally a fitting tribute to her and her greatness, forever it may last.
She will forever be the queen of Star Trek.
Yeah.
She will always be the queen of Star Trek, hands down.
Yeah, she's the queen, and then Luxana Troy is the mother, I think.
She is the. I mean, Majel Barrett has been the mother of Star Trek. She was always the mother of Star Trek. Let's be honest. I mean, she was Luxana Troy. She was the computer voice for every incarnation of Star Trek since The Next Generation. She was Nurse Chapel. She will forever be the mother. But Nichelle Nichols will forever be the queen of Star Trek. Right, we need to move on, because those eagle-eyed viewers will notice that there has been a section noticeably absent, because we have decided to move it towards this part. So, without further ado,
we failed massively, because we were like, "Hey, what we'll do is we'll get to the actual episode that we're talking about quicker than usual, to make it easier for new listeners." And then we still rambled on for fucking half an hour before getting into the review.
Why
so
not?
We failed, but we've moved
this
to the end. So this is how we
decide
decide the next episode that we are going to review with the Dabo Wheel of Trek.
We are receiving an incoming transmission from Joe Vanderbilt.
Incoming transmission.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mon Capitan, and my beautiful Science Officer Synoiz. I have devised a challenge to see if your neurospiciness matches my own. I have collected a list of 9 different starships, and you must tell me their classification. Now, to keep things interesting, these aren't just limited to Star Trek, so you might need to broaden your minds a little bit. We'll start out easy and get gradually more difficult. However, I'm only looking for 5 out of 9 correct answers. A majority counts as a success, so don't fret. The first starship on our list is the USS Voyager. No different designations or alternative timelines. This is the original NCC 74656. The second starship on our list is the USS Stargazer. Again, this is the original, not the Picard remake. Getting a little more difficult now. Our third starship is still Star Trek, but it's the USS Equinox. Branching out now, can you tell me the classification of the Serenity? And moving into Battlestar Galactica, can you tell me the starship classification of the Battlestar Galactica? And getting slightly more difficult now, the US Air Force George Hammond from the Stargate series. Moving on to the vast expanse of space, can you tell me the classification of the UNN Nathan Hale? And now to put one in here that I know will definitely ruin the both of you.
Damn
Can you
you!
tell me the classification of the UNSC Pillar of Autumn
Oh,
from the Halo series? And finally,
Oh.
what's the classification of the Babylon
Damn
5
you!
space station?
Yeah, okay, so we are spinning on the double wheel of shame this week.
USS Voyager NCC 74656 is, of course, Intrepid class.
Intrepid, that's the only one I knew. Intrepid.
USS Stargazer. I'm just going to fly through these. USS Stargazer NCC 2893 is, of course, Constellation class.
Okay.
The USS Equinox is Nova class.
Oh, yeah.
What was the next one?
We're actually going to do this.
What was the next one? Firefly.
Serenity.
Serenity is Firefly class. Hence the name Firefly. It
I
is
didn't know that.
Firefly class transporter named after the fact that the drive at the back of the ship emanates an orange glow as it enters into max speed, hence why it looks like a firefly. What was the other ship?
The next one was Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica BSG 75. This is a difficult one for me because
Basically, space Lego.
BSG 75 was the Battlestar group that it's attached to. So Galactica was one of 12.
Is he just Battlestar?
No. So Battlestar very much. See, this is why I love Battlestar, and this is why on the Trekkin Up North social, as I said to everyone, "Do you want me to do Battlestar Galactica?" And everyone's just like,
There's so many spin-offs that we're going to have to do at some point.
The original, in the reimagined, the original Battlestar Galactica was created, and Galactica was linked to Caprica because there was 12 Battlestars created in that class, and each one represented one of the 12 colonies. So you had one for Virgo, Tauron, Caprica, and
but the
et cetera,
question is, what class
I'm trying
is
to
it?
remember. I'm trying to remember what.
Well,
class
to
it
be
is.
fair, we only need one more, so we could probably.
Okay,
move
we'll
on.
get back to that one. What was the next one?
Okay, the next one, it was the
Was it the
George
Nathan-
Hammond,
the
but
George
I've written it down as the
So,
Richard Hammond.
the
So I'm
US
just going to go with classification of Gammon.
The USAF George Hammond, I believe, was a Daedalus class. It was a Daedalus class. So write that one down.
Daedalus.
So I
I
believe.
can't spell Daedalus, but I'll
it
give
was-
it a good Daedalus.
I
There we go.
believe it was a Daedalus class because I'm fucking looking at the model right now that I've got. But I'll double
Next one
check
was
that.
UNN Hale, the Nathan Hale.
The UNSC Nathan Hale from the Expanse. The Nathan Hale was the United Nations shit. I don't know about that one. I really don't know about that one. What was the next one?
Pillar of Autumn from
Pillar of
Halo.
Autumn from Halo. I have no idea.
Okay, right. And the final one is Babylon 5. And I know this one because the classification is terrible fucking CGI.
I thought it was the Babylon stations were just Babylon class. I thought it was just a Babylon class of station.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like, you know, the
Okay,
Babylon
so-
Project was what it was called. So I
The
assume
Babylon Project, yeah. So I thought it was just, in terms of classification, it was just the Babylon class of space station. Okay, so we have got Intrepid,
the Intrepid, Constellation, Nova, Firefly,
Daedalus, and
Babylon.
Okay.
And then we don't. I've lost it here. I've lost an ear.
You've lost it, right? We are going to do some
The ears
clarification.
popped out.
We are going to do some clarification, but those are our 5 answers. So Babylon
Let me just Google
5
this.
station class.
Is Babylon 5 a big?
Oh, we
shite?
were wrong. We were wrong.
Oh,
Babylon 5 is an O'Neill class habitable space station, specifically a deep space station. So we were wrong on that one. So we've lost. Okay, so the USAF George Hammond. Okay, here we go. The USS George. Oh God, God. The USS George Hammond, or simply Hammond, is the 6 BC 304 produced by the United States of America. So, the BC 3... The Daedalus class battle cruiser. We got 5!
We did it. We did it, Joe. Oh, you tricked it. And I didn't. You know how it is. I know a lot about Trek and stuff, but I don't know the ships. I don't know anything about the ships. This is why I'm not involved at all with the bloody Clone Star, dry
Okay,
docks.
so the other one was the UNN Nathan Hale from The Expanse. Now, this is a big bastard ship from The Expanse. It is the Leonidas class battleship. Is the UNN Leonidas class battleship. What was the other one? Pillar of Autumn?
Yeah.
Autumn. The UNSC Pillar of Autumn is a Halcyon class cruiser.
Oh.
Okay. What was the other one we had? I think that was it, wasn't it? No, there was
the Battlestar Galactica. What
Battlestar Galactica. I'm going to kick myself for this because
I'm going to say Jeff. I'm going to say a Jeff class.
No, BSG 75. BSG 75. Okay, she is. Oh my God! What have they done to the wiki? Look at how you have massacred my boy.
What have you done to my boy?
Class. She is the Jupiter class. I knew it was something like that. So, So
we got enough, though. We got enough. We've satisfied your challenge, Joe.
Oh,
that was a tough one. But
I will
we
say,
have Goodwill, who knows his stuff.
I will say, there has been. I have had a huge response when I have gone out and I have asked people, should we do Battlestar Galactica on this show? And this has been on the drawing board for a long time, and it is something that I am very interested to try and get off the ground. And I have spoken to people who were involved in the show that could be up to guesting.
That would be amazing
on the show.
It's so good, Battlestar.
It is. The thing is, it's very much like Sean Ferrick said once. It's very much a product of its time. However, it is not a show that is getting enough recognition now as compared to 10-15 years ago, and I feel it is a show that needs a second light shining on it, because it is.
I kind of feel
so
though
good.
that the remake of Battlestar Galactica, it hit at the time it came out, and that's something that we're not used to. It's the fact of, like, I remember it being a big deal and everyone being like, this is amazing, this is going to be a classic. And so I kind of wonder if that's hindered it from being viewed like a classic years later, because everyone was like, oh, but it kind of
It's very much right. It is an issue.
It was big news when it was out.
Battlestar is an issue, as with most things who were in sci-fi ownership during that period of television. Licensing has become such a nightmare when it comes to stuff like this. Now, Battlestar is NBC Universal via Sci-Fi. Okay. Now, NBC Universal, it's an issue trying to get their shows anywhere. And this is why I'm a proponent for physical media when it comes to stuff like this. If you can find it, watch it. Because I recommend, when it comes to sci-fi, outside of Star Trek, I recommend 2 shows. I recommend The Expanse for its raw authenticity to what the future could look like. And I recommend Battlestar Galactica as a product of when it was made. And I was very lucky about 15 years ago to secure the Bible for Battlestar Galactica. For the
Bible.
The Bible. So every show's got a production Bible that is, this is what you reference to, this is how it runs. And, every Star Trek show has a Bible, and it has to say, this is the universe, you do not tamper with it. This is how this is, you do not tamper with it. This is, and Battlestar, Ron D. Moore really went to town with this and said, we are seeing 9/11 in space. We are seeing the repercussions in a space setting. And the way it is told over 5 seasons, I will defend this to the hilt, and I will say this is one of, if not greatest, science fiction shows ever created in the terms of writing, acting, music, CGI, sets, locations, direction, the lot. It is absolutely flawless most of the way throughout. And this is, you know, every show's got a weak side, and Battlestar is no stranger to that. But for when this came out, this was damn near perfect, and we are getting the same quality of show now. I mean, we didn't get another high quality sci-fi show like this until The Expanse 10 years later, and then after The Expanse, we are just starting to get Star Trek at this high level of quality. That says a lot. And for want of a better thing, I will say, if you watch it for one thing, watch it for Edward James Olmos's performance, because him as Bill Adama, if you want to see a great but grey captain, that is who you watch.
Oh, I think I'm excited for the idea of covering it, because it is so fantastic. I mean, the terrifying thing is, obviously, we muse about it. We go, hey, we could do that as a spin-off.
Yeah.
But then also, so the other ideas we've had for spin-offs is me trying to work my way through Doctor Who, and me trying to watch Babylon 5 episode by episode, but where we incorporate some kind of swear jar, where I have to say at least a certain amount of nice things per episode.
And
I'm like going, that might be watchable if I'm perfectly honest, but it's going to be a struggle for me.
I'm going to use Captain's prerogative right now, and I'm going to make an executive decision to say our first spin-off will be Battlestar Galactica, purely because it is 5 seasons. That's it. It is 5 seasons. It is contained. There is TV, movies. They are contained. It is 5 and done straight away.
Yeah.
Okay? That should be the first one that we do, because we need to get that message out there about how good this series is. And I know straight away Joe Vanderbilt is sat there drooling, frothing at the mouth, wanting to be a guest, and so is his sister, and so is Sean Ferrick, and so is are other people.
There's so many amazing people that we can get on board for it. So I guess it'll be happening. I guess it will be happening.
It will be happening, but this
I'll be glad to watch it again, if I'm honest.
It is on the drawing board, guys. I will admit it is on my drawing board, but we have had a lot to get through, and we have had a lot to plan, and Science Officer Synoiz has been extremely busy. I have been traversing through caves on top secret missions where I'm going, there are 4 lights. So I am now recovered, and like I said, we have got a lot to do. We have got potentially conventions to attend this year that we may or may not have been invited to, because I got an email as we are recording this.
Tell them we don't want any of it. We don't want any of that.
But in the meantime,
we want to live in a bin outside Aldi.
In the meantime, I digress, because of course it is time for the other incoming transmission.
Yes,
Incoming transmission.
Thanks to Goodwill, we get to spin on the Dabo Wheel of Honor, where we have our... Oh, we've got to change it.
I'm changing it now.
That's the Wheel of Shame. We've got to change it. And how many? I think we have 9 or 10 episodes still in this.
I think we have 11, I do believe.
I thought we already did. I thought we did like 2 or 3 of them.
No, we might have 10.
Well,
anyway,
we'll see what happens. But yes, so
welcome.
Let's do this. And I'm going to do this bit today, I've decided. I'm stealing this role off of you, Captain.
Please do.
What should I say? Space Daddy.
Space Dilf.
What we're going to do, we're going to spin on the wheel, and what we need you to do is we need you to cross your fingers, hope for a particular episode that might be in the wheel, and then when it lands on a particular episode, we need you to sit at home. We need to sitting at home looking at the screen, or out and about wherever you're watching this, or if you've printed all of the dialogue from this off on paper and you've just got to this bit in the script, you need to yell it out or text a friend with it and just yell Dabo as loud as you possibly can, and that will give us some motive to review it next week.
Do you want to explain how the Dabo Wheel works?
No. There's 12. There's episodes in it. It spins through them. It randomly picks one, and then we have to review it.
Wow.
Yeah. There we go.
Much like
I've
my
done it a
love
lot.
life.
We've done a lot of episodes.
Much like my love life, that was short and painful. So we I saw
and not
I saw a
memorable
glass.
enough.
I saw a hydration, you know, that one of those Stanley hydration things. Anyway, there was
Yeah.
one that was about this big, right? And it had a straw and everything and a sealed lid, and it just said 2 inches is enough. So, with
Said nobody ever. But I've been laughing because the notepad that I just grabbed off my desk to write these bloody names down in Joe's challenge, for some reason in massive letters just has the word Velociraptor written on it. And my brain, in the background of my brain, has been trying to work out what this was, what context I was using this pad in that required me to write Velociraptor in
is it not
massive letters.
Velocipasta? Pasta,
I
the
don't
movie.
know. No, I don't know. It's something to do with dinosaurs that I've done recently, I assume. But yeah.
Well,
Anyway, let's spin the wheel.
Let's get this in 3, 2, 1.
Double! Yes!
Yes!
Yes! I've got it!
Yes!
At last! We get to talk about the drumhead. I've been wanting this for so long. Yes. Oh my god. We get to talk about Saturn.
Oh my god.
This is, as you probably guessed, this was one of my picks for the Dabber Wheel. This is one of my favorite episodes of Trek ever, and it is one of the most wonderful episodes to talk about and discuss, and it is so incredibly relevant to any time period in which it is watched.
I'm going to take a day off work for this because this is how
I was actually
going to
suggest,
take.
like, I was actually going to say we need to start doing lives. We need to start doing live ones. Should this be our first?
I think it should.
Yeah, because we do that, and then we can have the live chat. We can have people inputting there. Get back a little bit to how it was before we basically had too much in our lives to actually do it every week.
Okay. I think we should do on our Tuesday when this is uploaded. I think we should do a live show. What do you think?
Yeah, I think yeah, we'll work it out.
This is a very special episode. So the synopsis of the Drumhead: Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 4, Episode 21. The Drumhead. An overzealous Starfleet admiral begins a witch hunt aboard the Enterprise, determined to find a conspiracy, and eventually accuses Captain Picard of treason. Ooh, this is a brilliant, unbelievable episode that Synoiz has wanted, has thirsted for years now, and now we have finally got it. All because I know my ships.
The whole point of us changing the Dabber Wheel, because the Dabber Wheel previously was every episode of Trek ever, with some notable misses. And then we were kind of going, oh, I'd love to talk about this episode, and realizing just how unlikely it is when there's over 1,000 episodes in the wheel. Yeah, and then basically just narrowing it down in the hopes that we could get to talk about some of these pinnacle episodes, such as the Drumhead. So I'm very excited for this.
Computer, take us back to two-person mode.
Technically, we were in two-person mode before, but I'm not going to
Shut
be
up,
pedantic.
this is prettier and got more animations. Right.
I can see the Prodigy logo.
The next episode is going to be incredible. Holy shit, it is going to be live. It is good. There's going to be so much. We love a court episode here at Trekkin' Up North, and this is considered one of the pinnacle. This and Measure of a Man, I would say, are some of the pinnacle court episodes in Star Trek history, and oh my lord.
I've brought down bigger men than you, Picard.
I'm looking forward to this. I might actually style my hair for once for this episode.
I might actually. Thinking
I
about
think
it.
you should. I think you should wear the Crusher wig.
I've got it. It's literally down here. It's literally down here.
Hang on,
in case
no.
somebody does a Twitch redeem.
We should modify the Crusher wig to a Satie. Is it Satie?
Satie, yeah, Admiral
Yeah.
Satie.
We should
No,
we should
she's got a
modify.
very distinct haircut, I think.
Yeah,
but it's,
you need to go to the wig store and get the old Agnes wig where they've got blue curlies. Oh, get one of them wigs
I'm
in.
sure I've got one that I used for a Theresa May performance.
Oh my God!
So maybe I could put that.
Could we have like Satie Snatcher or something like that?
We'll work it out. We'll work it out. I love those. that
Admiral
this month, like,
Snatchy.
after being so incredibly busy and being so worn out and knackered, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to do any drag at all in April. I'm going to have a drag-free month. I'm just going to relax. I'll just do things. So I've done it 5 times now. And I have to do it again tomorrow, and then I have to do it again on Wednesday, like the final day, like the last day of the month. I have to do a live stream in drag, and I'm just like, so I've actually done drag more than I would do in a normal month on the month when I'm not supposed to be doing it. And you're like, I have failed massively, but that's the interesting thing. Obviously, it'll all be over. Well, actually, if this is going out on Tuesday, what I've done is I've done my Velvet Hatch egg decorating competition for Easter, where I've got people where they donate £5 to the wonderful Charlie and Carter Foundation, and then they can enter an egg into my competition. And then on Wednesday, the 30th of April, I believe, we're going to have a live stream on my YouTube channel, The Velvet Snatch, where I basically pick out a winner. So I judge all of the entrants, and I pick out the winner and what prizes they get and whatnot. And some of the entries are absolutely incredible. They're excellent, you might say. And it's all money raised for a good cause, which is brilliant.
And we're also rubbing it in the face of Americans that we can just afford eggs to paint.
I do love the idea of just going, oh wow, that's kind of terrifying that you can't afford basic stuff anymore. Like,
Aren't you glad
how are
you've
eggs
got
so
what you voted
expensive?
for?
what? Oh, yeah.
They are not just expensive, they are expensive. So that has been our review of Kobayashi from Star Trek Prodigy's Season 1. I would like to thank my gorgeous co-host, Science Officer Synoiz, for joining me this week. Of course, the seal preventing JD Vance from entering his house and shaking his hand has stayed in place, and he remains alive for now. I have been Captain Goodwill. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a like right down there. And if you are not a subscriber to Trekkin Up North, why are you not a subscriber to Trekkin Up North? Please click that subscribe button. If you like this, you would love all of our friends in the description down below. We have got the Transporter Room, Captain's Quadrant, the Search for Trek, those handsome dilfs. We have got Trek Culture. We have got all of our friends and our supporters of the show right down below. Please go through the description. We've got myself and the Velvet Snatches and Synoiz's links all down there. You can find us on every single social media page you can think of. So please engage with us. If you liked this episode, if you loved Kobayashi, why did you love Kobayashi? If you didn't think it was a good episode, why didn't you think it was a good episode?
Have we not convinced you?
Have we? Are you not entertained? If you want to comment, put a comment down below. Let's have a conversation about this episode. Let's get to know one another. Let's go for a cup of coffee and discuss this over a candlelit dinner. I mean, over anyway. But let us share this video far and wide. Share Trekking Up North far and wide. We are here to celebrate our love of Star Trek and share our passion with each and every one of you. If you want to give us a challenge for a future episode of Trekking Up North, please contact us on the email address on this YouTube channel or any of our socials down below, and we can get that organised. And you too could be featured on a future episode of Trekking Up North. But without further ado, I have been Captain Goodwill of the USS Adequate. He has been Science Officer Synoiz. I want you all to take care of each other. Stay safe. We will see you in the next episode. Live long and prosper. And ever.
Miles? Miles?
Miles?
Miles?
Miles?
Miles?
No, don't shake his hand.
Molly. Don't shake his hand.